Did they ever find out what happened to Maurice? They don't know. That's really sad. Do you have any T-shirts available for sale?
The T-shirts are for free.
You have T-shirts for free? Do you have any books for sale?
I have no books for sale.
You don't? Huh.
Working on that.
Do you want to ask me if I do? I might. What's that? Maybe. Yeah, I think so. That poem for Chris is new, huh?
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful poem. Yeah, well done. Well, since Shady mentioned cats, I'll read a poem about a cat. A cat named Sebastian, I think. Did I put Sebastian in here? Yeah, there it is. Okay. It's called Useful. It's kind of a love poem. Useful. Here's your chance to be useful, she said, but it was no use. I slithered under the house, around foundation struts and decrepit black pipe. Sebastian the cat was under there, but he and I were two magnets, negative to negative. So when I hunkered closer, those red eyes hissed and receded. Sweat bloomed all over me, the flashlights sputtered. The earth sandpapered my knees and elbows, and she coached and advised, but I could not get any closer. As I lay, not dying but entombed, recumbent between the two, precious woman, precious cat, their mutual devotion, an unseen filament I could have plucked like a guitar string, a love song I'd always be deaf to. I was completely, totally lost, stuck under a house in the crawl space between earth and abode, girl and cat, hoping for one of them to call me near and nuzzle me in the way all men need to be nuzzled. Lost boys we all are. Needless to say, it didn't work out between Sebastian and me.
How about the wife?
No. That was a girlfriend. That was a long time ago. Oh boy. Are we two-parent poems? Are we?
Yeah.
This is a new one. I've never read it before, so we'll see how it goes. Edward Hirsch came to Lighthouse a couple of years ago, and he read these amazing poems, and I was just so inspired about the poems and the way he talked about them. So this is a poem after Rose Auslander. Remember, I think she wrote about her dad or her mom, and her mom was an animal, I think. Do you remember that? I'm not. Anyways. Do you remember? No. The Right Whale, this is called. Another time, my mother was a right whale. By this, I don't mean she was large physically, I mean in my heart. She was also sleek in the deep, watery element, gliding, graceful, but when on earth, she often heaved but could not move. She is putting on the mink stole the doctor gave her. My father, in his dusty blue uniform, is delivering the mail. She is driving the doctor's Mercedes coupe, tan leather seats fatigued to a perfect patina. She is lighting a cigarette and making the dinner party crack up. She is singing a Willie Nelson song while washing a pot. She leaps into the air, breaching. She makes a massive silver splash. Sunday, she sleeps the morning away, drifting in her aquarium of bed. Father is mowing the thick, fresh lawn. His shoes and socks are stained green. He is there and not there. She comes up for air every once in a while, signs up for a sketching class, tries to quit smoking. We, her children, cheer her on, clapping in an old rowboat, creaking on the waves. She sews me a corduroy vest I will never wear. My father spends long winter nights on the couch. He himself is cocooned in a frayed comforter like some caterpillar. And then he's a dusty moth. Then he's gone. He never liked the ocean anyway. We are all grown now. The house is empty and ramshackle. Sometimes she calls to us in the night, long, melancholy wails. She is sounding the depths. She is seeking our adoration, and we are compelled to answer. We gaze into her liquid, knowing eye. We place our palms on her thick, wet skin. Years later, I ask her, did you ever want to drown out there in the deep, cold blue? You know how she answered. I don't even have to say it. Thank you. You had a trumpet in one of your poems, right? Right. This is a poem about a trombone and my father. Thruway Mall Atrium, 1980. And most of the details are true. I shuffle my brown clogs as against the AstroTurf risers as Mr. Vogel mouths out the title of our next song, In the Mood. It is February. The mall is scattered with old couples and a few parents. The Cleveland Hill High School stage band entertains shoppers, an afternoon of jazz and swing. I'm second chair trombone, even though I sometimes fake playing when the notes come too fast, throwing the slide back and forth. I think I look good without sounding bad. But In the Mood is easy, and I shift my arms smoothly, a confident 14-year-old, pushing and pulling the slide, lips pressed against the silver mouthpiece. The band's in sync, and that later had a bad connotation, but I can't edit that out. So the band's in sync. Mr. Vogel allows himself a smile for the small crowd near a stand of plastic ferns. Ron Lyon's parents are there. He's first trombone, has a sound I'll never create, a rich, silky aura that flows from his gleaming cone trombone. And then, by the penny-filled water fountain, I see my father in his post office uniform. In the light of the plexiglass atrium, I notice his sandy blonde mustache, something he's had so long I've taken for granted. He waves shyly, adjusting his empty mailbag. His eyes don't seem tired in this light, though he's been sleeping on the couch since August. I've never seen his face while I play. I practice in the basement so he can hear Dan Rather. Yet there he is, my only witness. By next September, I'll outgrow these brown clogs and quit Mr. Vogel's stage band. Before that, my father will move to an apartment 3 blocks from the mall. He'll sleep alone in a small room. He'll eat off paper plates. During Ron's solo, a smooth melodic swing, I count out the measures and smile at my father, whose face, different now, smiles back.
I want to read a long poem too. This poem is brand new. It's actually, this is 2 poems that are connected. And I'll explain that after the first poem, about how they're connected. This poem is also entirely based on a true incident. The title of this poem is As I dine alone in a 4-person booth at a Wendy's hamburger restaurant, my true inner self is involuntarily revealed to the world. You got that? Did you get that? This moment, this searing truth branded into my soul, I will forever forward bear. It arrives as a noise, an hydraulic body sound arising near the end of lunch on an otherwise uneventful Wednesday. There are no more significant, succulent cheeseburger bites in the still warm, greasy wrapping, yet I am rooting around for any stray bits of shiny onion, fried potato scraps, crispy bits of bacon or bun, when, amidst the rushy din of a fast food den, cash and deep fryer beeps, counterfolk who yell out milkshake requests, the squawk of drive-through speakers, an errant hiccup sucker punches my sluggish diaphragm, blorps past my otherwise occupied mouth to make a noise through my nose. This noise so snortish, classifiable quite clearly as an oink to all the other diners within its generous earshot. It seems all conversation stop for a second. It seems that all the chewing faces swivel in disbelief and stare. It seems that I am laid bare briefly on a butcher's slab of public judgment, and then the crowd's attention turns back away from mine and to their own indulgences, and the world begins again, and I am reborn. But from here on, part man, part pig, in the eyes of a hopefully forgiving God. So I said there's a second poem that's connected to this poem, and recently at Lighthouse Writers Workshop, which if you haven't heard of it, you should look it up. A source of great literary community and education at reasonable prices. Recently in a class at Lighthouse Writers Workshop called Revision as Addition, I learned some exercises about how to revise a poem by essentially just adding more to the poem. I mean, there was more to it than that, but so the instructor, a woman named Diana Nguyen, Diana Coy Nguyen, who wonderful instructor. I highly recommend her. She had a series of instructions. One of the exercises. One of the exercises used as an example two poems by Robert Haas. And the first poem is kind of a standard Robert Haas poem, and then the second poem is sort of addendum to the first poem. It's sort of a bunch of extra thoughts about different things that could have also been in the poem but weren't. And they both stand alone as their own poems, but together a little stronger. So this poem is in that style. It has an epigraph that says, "A la Robert Haas." The title of this poem is Notes on As I Dine Alone in a 4-person booth at a Wendy's hamburger restaurant, my true inner self is involuntarily revealed to the world. I might have said that I have often used a cheeseburger lunch as a way to hide from my workday for a while. I might have said that at the time I was working at a job for which I had no love and about which I felt shame, both for having given up trying to succeed and for not having gathered the courage to quit. I might have said that on that day I was suffering from a mild case of depression and existential dread for all the work I hadn't yet accomplished. I might have said that by the time I got around to writing this poem, I still worked at the same damn job. I might have said that Wendy's was the first fast food joint to open in my neighborhood when I was a kid, and that I would ride my bike the 1.5 miles most summer days to get some fries and a Frosty. I might have said that my mother liked Wendy's too, and took me there for dinner sometimes after the divorce. I might have said that my mother died more than 10 years ago. I might have said that in general, I fear death more than I fear irrelevance. I might have said that I once tried, unsuccessfully, to smuggle a chocolate shake inside my backpack into Spider-Man 3. might have said that I have no excuse, as I was a grown-ass adult when I tried to unsuccessfully smuggle a chocolate shake inside the backpack into Spider-Man 3. I might have said, I oink, therefore I am. And that might be true. Here's a short poem about, this is a short poem, this is a triolet. I might have explained that earlier. 8 lines long. This is a poem about married life with my lovely wife. This poem is titled Kitchen Skirmish. It's just a small battle as Sarah makes tea right in front of the toaster where I'm browning my waffles. She knows that I'm watching her, and I know she sees me. Though she's blocking the counter and brewing her tea, I eye the toaster for smoke anxiously. It's a war before breakfast, but no one's really hostile. It's just a small battle as Sarah makes tea right in front of the toaster where I'm browning my waffles. Sweet. Another poem about relationships. This is not actually based on any truth. I just like the way it rhymes. This poem is titled Flomax Misunderstanding. I apologize for anybody to whom Flomax is a bad memory. I joked that my Flomax was my version of Tampax, but she narrowed her eyes and she showed me her back. I said, I think that my Flomax, she said, we've heard enough, Jack. You could walk 20 more years in my tracks and you'd still be no smarter than a brain-damaged yak. I joked that my Flomax was my version of Tampax, but she narrowed her eyes and she showed me her back. Okay, I'll do 2 more triolets and then I'll get out of here. Okay. This poem is dedicated to my friend Roger. Roger had an experience in the mountains several years ago where he came face to face with a large female brown bear, and it affected him greatly for a long time afterwards. It took him about a year to recover, and sort of psychologically and physically. He wasn't hurt, but it was one of those events that just had such a profound effect on him. This triolet is called No Hibernating. Somebody coax Roger out of his bear skin. Tell him we'll buy him some soup and a Twinkie. Old age is a fishbowl that your grandfather stares in, so somebody coax Roger out of his bear skin. Blow the dust off his butt and his hair and his foreskin. Comb out his soul where it's folded and kinky. Somebody coax Raja out of his bear skin. Tell him we'll buy him some soup and a Twinkie. I'd like to finish up with what I think is one of my most hard-hitting political poems. This is also a triolet. It's titled Tentacles Schmentacles. You get that? Tentacles Schmentacles. I will defend my home from the terrestrial squids, though I am myself 1/7 cephalopod. It's part of my background that I've hitherto hid, but I will defend my home and family from the terrestrial squids. When they show up to take our cars, when they try to eat our kids, when they decide to wave their squishy legs above our favorite gods, I will defend my home from the terrestrial squids, though I, in truth, am 1/7 cephalopod. Thanks very much. Thank you.